You are listening to an American Free Press podcast.
Joining me on the line is John Filippidis from Florida. John, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you for having me and being concerned about me and my family for the incident that we had in Maryland.
John, I saw an article on the internet from the Tampa Tribune, gun owner unarmed, unwelcome in Maryland. I want to get into that in great detail in a moment, but before we do, I want to give the listeners a little bit of background about who you are. Let me ask you this, John. Where are you from?
I'm from the Tampa Bay area. I own a construction business. I have 22 employees.
Okay, and are you married? Do you have a family?
Yes, I am married. I have 3 children, twins and a little girl.
Are you originally from the Tampa Bay area, John?
No, I'm originally from Staten Island, New York, and then I moved to Florida in 1974 with my family, my parents, and I graduated school here in Tampa Bay area. I got married, my junior high sweetheart.
Wow, you must have seen that area really change over these decades, huh?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, I imagine.
I did get married, and I did move back to New York, and we stayed in New York for 20 years, and then we came back to Florida.
You have 22 employees, so your company supports, I guess, 22 families.
That is correct.
Wow.
I support 22 families, yes, sir.
That's pretty substantial. Let's start from the beginning here, how this event unfolded, where you were stopped in Maryland by some kind of a law enforcement official who had questioned where your handgun was. Let's start from the beginning, right before you noticed that this fellow was tailing you.
Yes, Dave. We did go to New Jersey, and we also had a wedding to go to New York and Long Island. And so we figured we would celebrate the Christmas holidays with my wife's sister and family in New Jersey, Woodbridge. And what happened was the holidays finished, and right before New Year's Eve, we decided to come back home to Florida. And we were traveling on I-95 coming through the Baltimore Tunnel. And once I was coming out of the tunnel, approximately 5 minutes after, I realized there was a cop in front of me, undercover cop, police officer, and next thing you know, he slowed down, and then he let me go around him, and then he came behind me, and he started following me for about approximately 10 minutes. I said to my wife, I think it's a police officer, and I think it's undercover, and I think he's pulling us over. And next thing you know, he put his lights on and his siren. So I did pull over, and he approached the car. You know, I had my license ready. I handed him my license to him, and he went back to his car for 10 minutes, and he came back to me. He says, please step out of the car and walk behind the truck, the SUV. I did that, and then he said to me, put your thumbs behind your back and spread your legs. I also did that, and he searched me, and I asked him, what's the problem, officer? He says, you have a gun. And I said, yes, I do, but I don't have it with me. It's at my house, in my safe, because I know the laws, and I know I'm not supposed to carry it throughout the states, so I left it at home in my safe. He says to me, you stand right here and don't move. I said, yes, sir. He went back to the SUV, and he started talking to my wife and my children. And he says to my wife, where's your husband's gun? And my wife says, officer, I know he carries a gun, but I know he's not supposed to be carrying it throughout the states, and more than likely he left it home. And then he asked my son the same question, and my son answered him, officer, I know my dad carries a gun, but I don't think he has it with him, and he's not carrying it. So he comes back to me, and he approaches me, and he says, you're lying to me. And I said, officer, what do you mean? He says, your family's telling me you have the gun with you. I said to him, officer, no, I do not have the gun, and I don't believe that my kids or my wife is telling you I have the gun with me. I said, I am not lying. I know the laws. I took my classes, and I know for a fact my gun is inside my safe. So he goes back to my family again, and then he asks them the same questions, and then he tells my wife, open up the glove box. My wife opens up the glove box. He says, can you see if there's a gun in there, but don't put your hands in there? My wife said, okay. She says, the only thing I do see is napkins. And then he says, open up the middle console. My wife opens up the middle console. She says, no, I don't see, no gun. And he comes back to me once again, and he says, you're lying to me. The gun is in the car. Your family's telling me the gun is in the car. Just tell me where it is now. And I'm telling him, officer, I do not have the gun. The gun is at home in my safe. And again, I know by law I'm not allowed to travel in certain states with it, and I left it home. Then he comes up to my wife, to my children. He tells my wife to get out of the car, and my children, right on the media of I-95, takes my wife, brings her in front of his vehicle, tells her to set her purse on top of the car. He tells her to lean against the car that he can search her. He searches her. Then he comes up to my son, and he tells my son, put your thumbs behind your back and take your jacket off, and we will search you also. And they searched my son. They took my 2 girls. They didn't touch her. They didn't search her. They put her in a police car. Next thing you know, 3 more state troopers come up from Baltimore, I would imagine. They pull up and they take my 2 daughters. They bring her in the middle of the car, and the officer says to me, "We are going to search your car." And I asked him, "Officer, isn't it my rights that you need a search warrant to search my car?" And he turned around and said to me, "No, I do not need a search warrant in the state of Maryland." So I said, "Sir, officer, you do your job. I'm not giving you permission, but go ahead and do your job. If this is what your job is, then you do it." So then they take me and they bring me all the way back in the last car, the last state trooper's car. They take my kids in one car, and then they separated my wife and my son. And then they go inside my vehicle. They move my vehicle closer towards the meter into the grass. And they took all my suitcases out. They searched throughout my whole car, my suitcases. And then the officer comes back to me, and he says to me, "Well, we did find some marijuana seeds inside your car." And I said, "Oh, did you really?" I said to him, "Well, I bought the car 3 weeks ago, but I doubt that you did find anything in my car." So he went back to the car again and kept on continuing his search. I was also sitting in the third vehicle of the state trooper's car, and then I had a gentleman, one of the officers. He started asking me, "What do you do for a living? How do you make your money?" And I said to him, "Am I being interrogated here?" Or I said to him, I was honest with him. "Yes, I own a construction business in Florida, in Tampa Bay area. And I have 22 employees." The 2 other officers that were searching my car comes back to my wife and to my girls and to my son and says, "We're sorry that we put you through all this. We will be putting your bags back together. We did not find anything." And then after 5-10 minutes, he calls me over from the last car, and he says to me, "We didn't find anything, but he gave me a warning ticket for doing 72 miles an hour." And I just took my hand out and I said, "Thank you, officer, and we'll be talking soon." And he told me, "Go ahead, go on your way." And that was the story. But there was one more thing also, that I do smoke cigarettes. And the 2 other officers, I asked politely, "May I have a cigarette?" on the media there. And they turned around and said to me, "We don't smoke, so you can't disrespect us." So I said, "Okay, I apologize for asking." And that was my story, Dave.
What a bunch of assholes. I couldn't help it. I had to say that.
So did Todd Schmidt on the radio station.
How old are you?
I am 51 years old, Dave.
And your wife, is her name Callie?
Yes, sir. She's 49.
So you've been around a little while. I mean, you've seen a bunch of things. So you were born in the early 60s. Like myself, I was born in 1960. If this is right from Tom's article, the twins are 17?
Yes, Dave.
And Gina's 13?
And Gina is 13, yes.
Okay.
Yes, Dave.
And you're not someone who has been in and out of trouble with the law, right?
Dave, I've never been in trouble in my life. I've never been arrested. I never went bankrupt. I'm a good citizen. I pay all my taxes, teach my family, my children to do the right thing. I have a great name here in Tampa Bay area.
This day that this happened, this was New Year's Eve?
This was the 30th. 12:30, the day before New Year's Eve.
And what time was this, John?
This was approximately 9:30 in the morning.
And this particular person who stopped you originally in the unmarked car, that was an employee of what law enforcement arm?
Dave, it was Baltimore Port Authority.
Okay, so similar to, by us, the New York, New Jersey, PA, the Port Authority in New York and New Jersey.
Yes, Dave. This is my understanding, yes, when I seen the ticket, yes.
Okay. Was this like a young white guy?
Yes, Dave. It was a young white guy. I would say approximately 28, 30.
Right, with no real experience. These are the type of people who show people like us and other people a lot of disrespect, obviously. Instead of saying, "Sir, this is why I'm stopping you. Sorry to inconvenience you. I hope we can take care of this real quick."
Excuse me, but I also thought the same thing. And, you see Christmas gifts, you see suitcases, 3 children in the car with a family. And, I gave him my license, and I thought, either you give me the ticket or say, "Sir, have a happy New Year and have a safe trip." We were devastated. We never expected anything like this to ever happen. It was just like a nightmare that happened to me and my family. He determined to humiliate me in front of my family. He determined he wanted to find something and put me in jail.
Amazing. How long did this whole process take?
I would say, Dave, it took about an hour and 20 minutes to an hour and a half. He had us on the side road for 25 minutes before the other state troopers finally showed up that we didn't even know that was coming. I would say a good hour and a half, Dave.
Was it the Fort McHenry Tunnel that you went through?
That is correct, Dave. Going southbound into Florida.
It was in an unsafe area that he pulled you aside, you're saying, right on the median?
Right on the media, yes, sir. And he had us right there on the media. And when he asked my wife to come out of the car, he didn't even take consideration of her with the highway being right there and my children also. But when they wanted to search the car, they took the consideration of moving it into the media.
Basically, they went through the entire vehicle. They pulled out all the Christmas presents, all your luggage. Is that right?
That is correct, Dave. Yes, sir.
Okay. Did they go through the presents and the luggage?
They went through everything. There was no closed gifts. I mean, all the gifts were open already, and they just searched the bag of the gifts and also my suitcases. Every single suitcase they opened up and went through all my clothing, even the dirty laundry.
Without a search warrant. Probably without probable cause. Do you remember, John, what the weather was like that day?
The weather was 20 degrees, and then we had all the trucks, tractor trailers going by, wind blowing. It was really bad out there, Dave. Very cold. It was very, very cold. Finally, I asked the officer, can you let my kids go in the car, my daughters? They wouldn't let me grab my jacket. But I wasn't concerned about myself. I was more concerned about my family.
They wouldn't let you get your jacket? That makes sense. Yeah, sure. I'm cold. No. You're a criminal. When he came over to you and said that he found some marijuana seeds in the car, did he produce the marijuana seeds to show you?
No, he did not, and I asked him about it also. I do know that he was determined to put me in jail for some reason or another. Just lock me up.
This is what I can't figure out, John. How is it that this rookie cop could stop you, first of all, tail you for 10 minutes, obviously looking at your license plate and getting whatever information this guy could get for some reason. He wanted to harass a hardworking American citizen who supports 22 families, plus all the other people that are supported from those 22 families. It's very significant.
Plus my community also, Dave. Also.
Exactly.
We sponsor schools here in our community. We sponsor churches. We like to help people.
I don't even know what to call them. They're like Nazis. And I don't know what's going on in this country with this, but it's got to stop.
I feel the same way, Dave. I feel the same way, and I couldn't understand it either. Like I said, Dave, it felt like it was a very bad dream, and it was very devastating. Believe me what I tell you.
This is what I can't figure out, John. Maybe you could help me with this. How is it that this Nazi, this cop, how did this cop know that you had a gun?
That's the other question, Dave, that we're asking also. I don't know. I really don't know how. The captain said to me that he's seen it in my wallet. He's seen that I had a concealed weapon license in my wallet. But I don't know that for sure. Again, when I handed him my license and everything, I don't know how he would have seen my concealed weapon license.
Okay, so there is a possibility that he might have seen this concealed carry?
This is what the captain is telling us.
Is there also a possibility that there might be some kind of secret way that they have found out that...
Oh, yes, there's definitely a secret way that they can find out. I asked a few people here in Florida with the law, and yes, there is. They can go on the internet and see who has a concealed weapon. To my understanding, this is what I was told.
Mm-hmm. So there's a possibility that this guy may have actually surfed the web there, gone on the internet, looked up your name when he wasn't supposed to, and found out that you did in fact have a concealed carry permit, then came back to your vehicle to harass you.
That's my theory, Dave, because it took him approximately altogether 10 minutes to pull me over. Then when he pulled me over, it took him another 10 minutes to approach my vehicle. So this is what I'm thinking.
Okay, now what do you have planned for this horrendous experience that you had to go through?
I just want to make sure that no other family has to go through this ever. I think this officer should be disciplined, and I think maybe they should send him to training school to not be able to do what he did to me and my family. He devastated us. He treated us like we were worse than animals.
Unbelievable. It's amazing because when these public servants, quote unquote, when these taxpayer-funded Nazis do this to people, whether they're shooting somebody's dog or they're humiliating people like they did to you guys, to all 5 of you, it seems like most of the regular Americans, such as yourself, all they want to do is really let these people get more training. They don't want to hurt them. They don't want to beat them up. They don't want to treat them like they treated you. They just want them to be trained. Isn't that amazing that here these people are doing this to regular hardworking Americans, and all the hardworking American wants to do is say, yeah, you should get more training. That's it. And that's all you want.
That's all I want. Yes, sir. That's all I want.
Are you thinking about taking any legal action?
I am, Dave, and the reason why, once again, is because I don't want to see Baltimore, Maryland officers do what they did to any other family. I think that they need to learn a lesson.
John, I want to thank you so much for the time you spent explaining all this to the listeners, and I'm sorry you had to go through what you went through and your family as well, and I'm looking forward to talking to you again in the future to find out how this matter will unfold.
And I thank you, Dave, and I thank you for your concern of myself and my family more than anything. And all the people out there that are supporting me and my family, we really appreciate it. And again, I just don't want to see another family ever have to go through anything like this. It's devastating, Dave.
I don't blame you. Thanks again, John.
Thank you, Dave. You have a good day now.
You too.